Hello everyone, my name is Miriam Mosin and I'm representing Group 1 for the presentation. I'm going to be discussing our project, which is a basic introduction to Microsoft Word. My team members are Sarah Agosa, Talal Usmari, and Kalima Lane. To begin with, the problem that we set out to solve is training adults in the basic use of Microsoft Word, and we tried to do that in 3 parts: creating and saving a document, formatting a document, and inserting a table. The version that we used is Microsoft Word 2011 for Mac, and in a real world setting, this would probably be one of 3 modules, and we would like to include Microsoft PowerPoint and Microsoft Excel because we think that that would create a more comprehensive training in the most popular Microsoft Office programs. This is a summary of our audience and content analysis. I obviously couldn't include all of it, but we did conduct a very thorough analysis. So our learners are adult learners. They're most likely 18 and older. They can have any level of education. There's no requirement. They do need to have, however, basic computer abilities, especially because the tutorial is online, so they do need to be able to navigate through the internet. They're most likely not technology natives, so they're not very familiar with technology, but they are self-motivated, probably by educational and career aspirations or a desire to increase their own resourcefulness and their skill set and to advance themselves personally, socially, and professionally. The learners will probably use their own public or employer computers both for the tutorial and afterwards, and they'll probably use the program for personal use, maybe for job searching initiatives, and for educational and employment purposes. How we address the problem was that we tried to create a self-directed asynchronous e-learning training module. So there's no instructor involvement. The learner is basically on their own for the training, but it's a simple and concise 3-part training that allows users to learn about how to use Microsoft Word through interaction with the content and through testing their knowledge. Some of the important characteristics of our design is that we utilize the principle of customized training. So we based our design on an evaluation rather than just assumptions for what the users would be like and for what they would need. We took 3 primary considerations into account. Those were that, first of all, the client's goal for using the training, their prior knowledge, and the environment in which the learning will take place. We tried to follow sound design principles, so we tried not to use any irrelevant graphics or contain any extraneous sounds, and we tried to focus on the core content and use the least amount of words and graphics so that we don't overwhelm the learner with information. And we learned that there's a wide variety of methods to communicate information, and of course words are the primary way to do so, but we learned that learning is enhanced using other elements such as graphics and interaction, and we tried to incorporate that into our design. We applied the multimedia effect, which basically, again, states that people learn more effectively when there's words and graphics involved rather than just words alone. We tried to evaluate the extent to which we used words and graphics, so we tried to follow the coherence principle and to make sure that the graphics and the words were concise so that the learner can stay focused on the task at hand. We used a conversational style, which we feel appeals more to the learner because the content is then tailored to the learner, and that leads to deeper cognitive processing. We followed sequencing. We presented the introductory information first and tried to build on the tutorials and build on the knowledge that the learner acquires as they're completing the training. And we followed the knowledge acquisition method by incorporating interactive exercises and quizzes into our training, which we feel helps the learner to synthesize information more effectively, and that facilitates deeper learning. The reason that we chose this particular design and we chose to focus on those elements is because we felt that that would be more suited for a new learner without any prior knowledge of Microsoft Office. every lesson in our module engages active learning for the learners, so they are actively learning as opposed to passively learning. The graphics are tied directly, and you'll see that when I demonstrate the site. They're tied directly to each step that a learner performs, and they receive immediate feedback simulations indicating the desired outcome. So whatever the task is, they will see the result of performing that task. For the lessons themselves, we did indicate, of course, the correct steps that the learner should follow. However, for the quizzes, we wanted them to know if their answers were correct or incorrect, so we provided feedback indicating whether the answers were correct or incorrect, because we felt that this is necessary for measurement of learning and for storage in the learner's long-term memory. We didn't use a lot of text or video or any unnecessary graphics, again, so as to keep the learner focused and so as not to overwhelm them and to keep the tutorial as concise as possible. We tried to choose a color scheme that was very bright and interesting because we wanted to capture the attention of the learner. We also used very clear navigation graphics, as you'll see, with minimal text, and actually the majority of the pages transition automatically once the learner performs a task. So how we went about this, obviously we started with brainstorming and choosing an instructional problem. And the instructional problem that we originally chose was computer literacy for adults. And we wanted to do that in 4 parts: computer hardware, computer application software, word processing, and basic internet usage. We started off with the project plan, and we tried to follow the Assure model. And there were 4 basic phases to our process: the analysis phase, design phase, development phase, and the evaluation phase, which went throughout the course of the project. So we started off with the analysis phase, and we began with a needs analysis to identify our goals and to write our performance objectives. Then we conducted a very thorough audience, context, and content analysis. And once that was done, we were able to begin the design phase. And so we created several instructional strategy, appearance, and site structure prototypes, among others. And that was the point where we conducted our first formative evaluation, and at that point we revised our original scope based on the content analysis and the prototypes. We decided that our original scope was too ambitious, so we narrowed it down to just Microsoft Office and to Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. And that's when we began the development phase. The home page was created and uploaded, and the original site navigation was created. Simultaneously, we were working on the writing of scripts and the creation of graphics for Tutorial 1 and for Quiz 1. And once those were complete, we inserted them into the site, and then created Quiz 1 in Wondershare, Quizmaker, and inserted that into the site as well. At that point, we reviewed our progress, and we met with Dr. Spanis, and that was a very pivotal point in our process because it actually led to the final scaling down of our project, and we actually narrowed down our scope to Microsoft Word and decided to focus on the 3 tutorials that I mentioned earlier. And at that point we continued to write the scripts and create graphics for Tutorial 2 and 3 and Quizzes 2 and 3. Tutorial 2 and Quiz 2 were completed first, and they were inserted first. And we conducted user tests and recorded our observations on those. And then once Tutorial 3 and Quiz 3 were completed, we also conducted our user test after uploading those pages. And recorded our observations, and that led to a revision of the site appearance, and we decided to create menus for the site at that point. We also inserted a video. This video is, you'll see it when I demonstrate the site. It is just to complement the content of our site and direct learners to a place where they can learn more about this topic. At this point, we were basically done with our development, and we wanted to pilot the site for the first time. So we conducted a pilot and recorded our observations, and the resulting revisions were a creation of forward and back arrows. So originally our navigation only had a back link which could take you to the previous page, but you could not navigate to the following page. And we also revised all of the tutorial content, the text, and the quizzes and the feedback content as well. And then we repeated that phase several times until we reached the final product. Okay, so this is basically how we divided our tasks, and we tried in dividing our tasks to first of all be time efficient and effective in carrying out our project plan, and also we tried to work to everybody's individual strength. So Sarah was our project manager, and she would send us weekly updates and keep us on track based on our project plan. She also represented us in the group meeting with Dr. Spanis, and she communicated the results back to the team along with Kalima. She was responsible for developing content and graphics. She developed the content for all 3 tutorials and for all 3 quizzes and the feedback for those quizzes. And she also completed all of the screenshots and helped with the review, especially for the analysis phase and for the prototypes. And she also revised the content text after the user tests and the pilot. Talal was responsible mainly for development, and he created the interactive quizzes, which you'll see in the site, and embedded those quizzes into the site. Originally we just had a link for those quizzes. He created the menus, and he also helped with creating and uploading the pages and creating links within the site. And also after the user tests and pilot, he helped with the revision of the site appearance, revision of the site content, and the quizzes following the user tests. And also he revised the way that we navigate through the site, so he inserted forward and back. He's the one that inserted the forward and back arrows. And he also inserted the video into the end of the site. Kalima was all over the place. She helped with analysis. She conducted the content and context analysis because she was most familiar with the topic. And she also worked on the design prototypes for appearance, instructional strategy, and site structure. She worked on development as well, and she created and uploaded some of the pages, including the home page, and she inserted scripts and graphics. She also created the interactions that you're going to see in the site, and she worked on the original site navigation. Miriam, this is me. I worked on the project plan and on analysis for needs and audience analysis. In general, I also helped with creating Google Docs for the team and facilitating group communication. I also searched for some external sources to complement our content, and that resulted in the insertion of the video at the end of the website. And another main responsibility I had was review. So I also helped with analysis and with reviewing analysis phase and the prototypes, and with editing and proofreading all the site content, making sure there were no typos, no errors, and conducting user tests, including the pilot, to test the site for functionality and to report my observations to the team and suggest revisions, which were then completed by other team members. And I'm also working on the presentation. But I do need to mention that the project plan was not my work alone. The team did contribute obviously to the project plan, as well as to the review of the analysis phase, prototypes, and the site itself, and of course to the presentation content as well. Okay, so now I'm going to demonstrate the site for you. I'm going to click on the link and show you our project. So this is our home page, and as you can see, we have a menu bar at the top of the page, which is accessible from any page in the website, and it has a home tab, create a document tab, which is the first tutorial, format document, second tutorial, insert table, which is the third tutorial, and an about tab, which just gives basic information about the site, about the purpose of the site, and the fact that it's not endorsed by Microsoft Office and it's not official training of the company. And it also has a link to Dr. Spanis's page on the Wayne State University website, and to the Wayne State University homepage, as well as to Talal's personal page. I'm going back to the home page now. Okay, as you can also see at the bottom here, we included a disclaimer because we did use some Office logos, so we wanted to make sure that the users know that those logos are not our property, but that they're property of Microsoft. And also in quiz 1, we used a Google Chrome logo in question 3, so the same applies to that logo. It's not our property. We want to make sure that the user knows that it's property of Google Inc. Okay. Here you can see that we have 3 icons, one for each of the tutorials. And so you can click on any of these icons and it will take you directly to that tutorial. Also on the sidebar over here you can see that we have links to each of the quizzes, and those are accessible from anywhere in the site as well. So I'm going to click on create a document and walk you through some of the tutorials and some of the most important features in our site. Okay, so as you can see, in creating on the first page, when you click on the icon, you can navigate either backwards to go back to the home page, or you can move forward to move on to the next page in the tutorial. There's some information about Microsoft Word, and the instructions also begin. Another way to navigate is to actually perform the tasks that are described in the instructions. So for example, the first task is to start Microsoft Word by selecting the Microsoft Word logo in your doc. It looks like a W, and it directs the user to click on it now. So as you can see, when I put the cursor on the W, I'm able to click on it. I'm not able to do that with the other icons that are on, or the other logos that are on the page. And when I click on the W, it actually takes me to the next step, which is to select New Blank Document from the File drop-down menu. And it shows the user the actual drop-down menu that would appear in Microsoft Word, and directs them as to what they should do to open a new blank document. So when I click New Blank Document, it also moves me forward to the next part of the tutorial. And then the next step is to save the document. So I click on File, as it directs me to, and it also directs me to click on Save As. When I click on Save As, I'm taken to the next page of the tutorial, which shows the actual window that would appear in Microsoft Word if the user were actually using Microsoft Word and wanted to save a document. And it gives instructions as to what the user should do, and it's very clear that some of the things in the instructions they will not be able to do on the actual tutorial, but it does say to click Save to move forward to the next step. So once you've saved the document, you've completed the first tutorial, and the page that appears here informs the user that this is the end of the first tutorial and that they've now learned how to create and save a tutorial, or sorry, a document. Okay, so here they can either proceed to formatting a document, which is the next tutorial, or they can take the Microsoft Word Quiz 1 to find out how much they've learned. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to walk you through the other tutorials, so I'm not going to take the quiz now, I'll do that later. I'm going to walk you through the other tutorials to show you how the user can navigate through the site, and also some of the content of the other two tutorials. So I'm going to move quickly through formatting a document, but it's the same process. I can navigate either by following the instructions indicated on the page, or by using the forward arrow. I'm going to use the forward arrow for now, but I'll show you how the interactive graphics work. So I can go to Format, Paragraph. I can click on Paragraph. One of the problems that we have with our site is that the screenshots are a little bit small, so the font is a little bit difficult to see. But we found that if we were to zoom in, that would actually resolve the problem, and the text would get bigger and be much clearer for the user to see. So I'm going to click on Document and just show you what that would do, and continue to use the forward arrow to move forward through the tutorial. So this is the end of the second tutorial. Again, I can either proceed to the third tutorial by choosing this link over here, inserting a table, or by using the forward button, the forward arrow. I'm also able to take the quiz, but I'm going to save that for the end. Okay, so the third tutorial is inserting a table in a document. And as you can see here, the instructions are given, and the menu bar that would appear in Microsoft Word is available here. The learners are prompted to select Table from the menu. So if I do that, the drop-down menu immediately appears, and I am prompted to click on Insert, which is the next step in inserting a table. So when I click on Insert, immediately another drop-down menu appears, and I am prompted to click on Table. And when I do that, a series of instructions appear, as does the window that would appear in Microsoft Word if I were actually in Microsoft Word. And the instructions obviously have to do with how the user can construct their table, how they can choose the number of columns that they want to have, the number of rows, if they want to set the table to a standard size, how they can do that. And obviously we've filled the boxes out for them for this step, but they can click OK, and they will see what the final result would look like, and also that they can now format the font, content, and borders if they would like to do that for their table. So I'm going to click on the forward arrow again, and that takes me to the final page of the website. It says, "Congratulations, you have now inserted a table into your document." Like the other tutorials, here I can either take the Microsoft Word Quiz 3, which I'm going to do in a second, or we've included this video, which I mentioned earlier, which would basically give these users a source of information that would complement the information that we have provided them with in the website. It's a video from YouTube, from the Udemy site, which also gives a short but thorough introduction to Microsoft Word 2011 for Mac, which is the same version that we're using in our tutorial here. So I'm just going to click on it to show you it works.
What are we going to be able to do after we've gone through all the little projects within this particular title about Word?
So that's basically the video. Now I'm going to click here on this link to take Microsoft Word Quiz 3. So some of the features of the quiz are that we have true, false, fill in the blank, and multiple choice questions, and whenever the user selects any answer, they receive immediate feedback. After pressing submit, they receive immediate feedback on their answer. So the first question is, a table allows you to organize information in a standard, uniform way. This is true. So I'm going to select true and click submit, and it tells me if my answer is correct and gives me an explanation for why it is correct. Tables are useful to communicate, group, organize, or all of the above information. So here the correct answer is all of the above, but I'm going to select group just to show you what would happen if the actual answer was incorrect. So the feedback would say, incorrect, tables are useful to communicate, group, and organize information. Okay. Third question, to create a table, go to Format and then Document. Excuse me. This is false. Submit. I get feedback on that. It's correct. And to create a document, I go to Table and Insert Table. You can change the formatting of your table, including the font. This is true. Submit. I get the feedback again. It's correct. You can edit the format of any table in Word. And obviously, pressing OK moves the user forward to the next question. Tables have, and these are the different options. I'm going to select pivots and junctions. Submit. That's incorrect. The two dimensions in tables are columns and rows. Question 6, you can only change how many columns are in your table, but not rows. This is false. Submit. Correct. You can make your table have as many columns and rows as you want. Of course, all of these questions are directly based on the information that was provided in the tutorial, so there's nothing extraneous or that the user hasn't seen before in the tutorial. Question 7, when you start a new document, a table will automatically appear. This is obviously false. Submit. Correct. A table does not appear automatically. You must create one if you need to. Question 8, tables are useful to organize accounting information. This is true. And again, feedback, correct. You can use tables to present accounting information effectively. So when I press OK, it takes me to the page that says, congratulations, you passed. And I'm able to review the questions and review the feedback as well. I'm also able to go back to the home page, or I can go back to the home page from the link here at the bottom, or from the menu bar. And if I choose to, I can also go to any of the 3 tutorials. So if a learner wants to review the information and find out why they may have gotten a question wrong, they can go back to the tutorial and go through those steps again. I believe that concludes my explanation of the site, so I'm going to go back to the presentation. Okay, so our reflections on how the project went. Overall, we felt that the project went very well. We executed our plan and we made adjustments along the way because, of course, we had to. We started out with 5 team members. We ended up with 4 down the road, so we had to accommodate for that. But the initial needs analysis also really helped us with staying on task, and it's something that we would definitely do again. We're glad that we spent that time initially planning out our project and taking the time to learn more about the users of the project, because that really helped shape the design. Also, something that we felt like we did well was that we used time-efficient techniques, and one example of this is using online link checkers to report problematic links in seconds, as opposed to having to check every single link after changes were made. These programs will check the entire site basically at one time and report all of the different problematic links immediately. We felt that our communication as a team went very well despite the differences in our schedules and the fact that sometimes we couldn't all be in one meeting at the same time, but we did communicate through email, through Google Docs, and through Skype, and we made compromises, we listened to each other, we were made accountable to each other and to our project plan. And we did make the necessary revisions to the project that we felt would improve it. Overall, we feel like the final product did meet our expectations and that it would satisfy the needs of the user as well. Some improvements that we would make to the process and to the site itself, and to the design, as we would do group testing for the Skype conference beforehand. Our first meeting with Dr. Spanis didn't exactly go according to plan, and we had technical difficulties getting everyone in the meeting at the same time. So something that could in the future prevent that would be to have a group testing beforehand that actually includes the professor, to make sure that we don't delay the meeting. And another thing that we would have done differently is when it comes to design, we probably would test more prototypes before developing the content. We kind of went with the second or third prototype that we did, and we didn't really test out too many before we actually started on development. Also, we feel that the interactive graphics really worked very well, but it would be even more effective to make the tutorial more similar to the Word environment, and we could do that by actually having the Microsoft Word interface within the website, but of course that would take much more advanced programming than what we currently know how to do, but it is a good idea. Something else we might do differently is we might use drop-down menus in the site. And you saw the menu bar. What we're suggesting here is that we divide the 3 tutorials into different subsections based on the steps that the user goes through, and allow the user through the drop-down menu to go to that specific step instead of having to navigate through all of the pages to get to the specific step that they want to get to. And finally, we might include more examples when it comes to formatting the document, and maybe base those examples on specific word processing tasks that the user would want to use Microsoft Word for. Like, for example, writing a letter or a resume, because, you know, that might actually be more useful to the user than having a general tutorial. And I believe that concludes reflections. These are the sources that we referred to in the presentation. And that concludes the presentation for Group 1. Thank you very much for listening.